Hello, welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, some of you will be looking at your screens and thinking, is that an Akari puzzle? Well, yes, it is. We've found a way, I think, of allowing you to play Akari puzzles. And Akari is the most fantastic Japanese pencil puzzle. One of the the great regrets of life is that Nicoli.com stopped publishing puzzles daily on their website. I think it was something to do with the Flash player becoming or going out of fashion. And as a result, being able to play Akari puzzles, which was a great part of my life, frankly, ceased. And it's a puzzle that absolutely lends itself to computer solving as well. So it's such a shame. It's an example of where, although technology is advancing apace, in the instance of Nicoli stopping publishing their puzzles, actually technology went backwards. Now what I've got therefore is I've been scouring the internet for Akari puzzles, and I really hope you guys will be able to play. Just click on the link. I've got 4 puzzles for you today. Akari puzzles don't take that long, and you can just click on the links, and I hope you'll be able to play it in exactly the same way that you can with our software for the Sudoku. Do let me know in the comments if there are any issues, because if there are issues, then obviously we won't be able to do this again. But I'm really hopeful this might be something that we can repeat, A, if it works, and B, if you guys like the puzzle. Now, if you haven't seen an Akari puzzle before, you are in for a treat. Okay, this puzzle is so simple and yet so beautiful to solve. So let me explain the rules. So we've got to fill the grid. We've got to make sure that every white cell in the grid is lit up. Now, what does that mean? Let me just show you. You can place these lights in the grid, these circles here, and it lights up everything horizontally and vertically until it hits a wall. Now, these clues in the grid tell us how many lights there are in the orthogonally connected squares. So where we have a 0 clue on the edge here, there could not be a light in any of those squares. This square, on the other hand, this has got 2 in it. There are only 2 open spaces, so these must both contain lights. And we have to just fill the grid. That's the idea, subject to these constraints. Now, this is an easy puzzle, so hopefully this one will be very tractable. You can see the 2 here. That's going to mean we can place these lights here. Put some stuff around the 0 there. This 1 now has only 1 option. Now this one has only 1 option. And there's something cathartic about the way that you can just start to fill the grid in, as I'm showing you here, and we can finish the puzzle. So that's the easy one. Now the next puzzle I think I'm going to show you is a puzzle that I found on Bastien Vial-Jaime's website. So he's only published 1 Akari ever, and this was about 5 years ago, and this is it. So I thought we'd now take a look at this. Now, don't be misled by that first puzzle. That first puzzle was easy. The logic can get a lot more difficult. In fact, I did publish an Akari video back in 2017 on Cracking the Cryptic, but it wasn't playable by viewers, so it's just a run through of an extra hard Nicoli puzzle. It's still an interesting solve, and it has some interesting logic in it, but I'll link it now on the screen in case any of you are interested in that. So let's have a think about how to solve this one. Okay, so the first things we would start to do would be to note that some of these 2s are a little bit restricted. So where we have a 2 and one of the ends of the 2 cannot contain a light, then we know, for example, this square could not be a light, because now there's no way I can get 2 lights around this 2 clue. I can get 1, but only 1. So we can actually put some dots into the grid to indicate there can't be a light in this cell or this cell, and we can repeat that round the grid. Look, those 2 are also subject to the same constraint. So what? Now I see something else interesting. We've got a similar thing going on, look, between this 1 here and this 2 here. Because I can put a maximum of 1 light either here or here, which means there must be a light either in this cell or this cell, or possibly both. But if we know that one of these contains a light, this one can't be a light, because this is going to give the 2 a problem now, or the 1 a problem. So we know that's the case. Now, similar logic, we can't actually put 2 lights like this, because this 2 now becomes broken. So we now know something quite important about these 2 squares. We know that there is exactly 1 light in this square and or this square. And similarly here, because we can't have 2 lights here, that's going to break the 2, there's exactly 1 light here or here. So what does that tell us? Well, that doesn't tell us which of these is the light, but it does tell us that there will be a light either here or here. And that's important because that allows us to fill in some other cells that can't possibly be lights. Similarly, there must either be a light here or here. So that one can't be a light either. And unsurprisingly for Bastien, you can see that we can now extend this logic. This is very beautiful setting. So now we have a 2 here and a 2 here. And exactly the same issue is going on. We can't put 2 lights here because it breaks this glue. We can't put 2 lights here because it breaks this glue. So again, we can label some cells like this. And now this 2 is fixed, look, because of this dot here. There's only 2 positions for lights. This 1 is now fixed. This 2 in the middle, we know it needed 1 light, so that must be it. That gives us these 2 as well. This 1, we can't put a light here because there wouldn't then be an option for the 1. So we can do that, this and that as well. Now this square here, look, the only way of getting this square lit up is if I put a light in it. The only square of getting this cell lit up is if I put a light in it. This 2 is now fixed. And there we go. Oh, is that right? Yes. So that's that one. Now let's move on to a different one. I think it was this one I wanted to show you next. This has a slightly different trick. This is a very beautiful puzzle as well. And this was actually the puzzle that prompted me to decide to try and find a way of showing you Akari. So this came in from Brian in Rochester, of all places. And he wondered how to do this puzzle without guessing. Akari is a puzzle that is susceptible to guessing, especially when you're solving it on a nice computer interface, because you can just sort of guess one cell and then see where it goes and unwind very quickly. But this puzzle we don't need to guess in. Let me show you. We can surround the zeros with dots. That's always quite satisfying to do. Let's do that. By the way, in terms of the mouse movements, my right mouse button seems to put dots in and my left mouse button seems to put lights in. So if any of you are wondering, that's what I'm doing. This 2 clue down here, you can see that's given. We can fill that in. And now I suspect this is where Brian got stuck, because it's difficult to see the next move. But what we need to focus on is these 2 cells here. Now these 2 cells, we've got to light these up somehow, but you can see that because they are sort of closed off, the only way of getting a light to light up these 2 cells is either there must be a light here, either in those 2 positions or in these 2 positions. It's sort of like an X-wing in Sudoku. If this one is lit up, we know for sure this one will be lit up in order to light that one. If, on the other hand, this one is lit up, it'll be the other way round. So again, we don't know which way round it is, just as we often don't know which way round the X-wing goes, but we can use the fact that we know that there will be a light in one of these 2 positions and one of these 2 positions, to put in a load of dots. So let's take that opportunity. And look how beautiful this puzzle has been sort of constructed now, because now we've got exactly the same trick going on in these cells. I need to light this cell and this cell, and therefore I'm either going to have to use that configuration or this configuration. Therefore, I can put in more dots. And now all of a sudden, this little cell here has become, that can only be seen by one cell. We know all of these dot cells can't contain a light, so the only way of lighting up this cell will be with that light there. And look now, we've got the same thing here again. We need to light these two dots, so these cells must be without lights. Now this one cell has become quite important. We can place a dot here because this can't be a light now. And now this one cell has a similar thing going on. We know there's either a light here or here. So this one cell can't have a light in either of these two positions. Otherwise it will have two lights around it, and that's impossible. And finally, we're starting to make some progress. We started up here, and our logic has taken us all the way to the other side of the puzzle. And this one, which we can now place. And then the theme continues. We need to light up one of these. So we're going to either be like this or like this. And now this cell has only one option for a light. And that finally brings us all the way back over here, and it fixes this cell. Look. So that's got to look like that. That's got to look like that. That fixes that one, look. Place the dots, that fixes these two. This one only has one option now. This one only has one option now. This one only has one option now. And we're nearly there. And now we just have to take a quick stare at this and appreciate something. If we look at this cell, imagine that this was a light. If this is a light, how are we going to light both of these dot squares here? And the answer is you can't. You can put one light here, but it'll isolate this one, or you can try the other way, but that'll isolate that one. So there's no way that square is going to be a light. So now you can see we can finish it off by placing a light here and a light here, and we're done, I think. A shell is not shined, it says. I'll put that one in. Now it should be done. Yes. Right, so that's that one. Now, how many have we done? We've done 3. Ah, yes, now. I found this puzzle, I think, on Palmer Mebane's website. So this is a puzzle that is 10 years old, believe it or not. And Palmer said it's very hard, and indeed it was very hard. It took me a few minutes to figure out this one. And Akari puzzles are normally, they're sort of a coffee break puzzle. But this is a very beautiful construction. So even if you're very familiar with Akari, do take the time to try this. You will enjoy it. It will, it will delay you a little bit, I think. So let's start with obvious things. You can see we can place dots here and here and here, and that is where you might get stuck for a while, until you start to appreciate that these 2s in the corners here are very, very clever. So let's focus on the 2's relationship with the 1 in the top right. Is it possible that both of those are lights? Well, clearly not. That gives us no light possibility at all in the top right hand corner. So we know these 2 aren't lights. But look, we've got something very similar going along in that we know those 2 aren't lights either. So given that we know that it's not possible to place 2 lights on either side of this 2 clue, there must be exactly 1 light on each side of this 2 clue. Now if there's 1 light in one of these 2 positions, either here or here, you can see that's using up one of the sides of the 1 clue. So whichever one we choose, the 1 clue would then have to be there, or here, the 1 clue would therefore have to be there. And we have exactly the same relationship down here. And in fact, when we study it with this 2 clue here, you can't do 2 this way or 2 this way because of the 1 clues. Now what this tells us is that we're able to highlight some squares, look, that cannot possibly contain lights. It's a very, very lovely idea. Oops, that one is right, that's correct. And we can come down here, and we can come across here, and we can come up here. So we reach this position, and then it's still not easy to see what to do. You can see that we've managed to isolate these ones a little bit. We can place some dots in those two positions, but you really have to stare at this to appreciate that there is a relationship now between this one, this two, and this one. Let me show you how that works. So this 2 here, let's start with that. Let's imagine that we did that. What would happen? This 2 now would have to look like this, and this one is broken. So we know that this 2 cannot have 2 lights in these 2 positions. But by symmetry, we know exactly the same thing is true of this 2. That gives us the same problem with this one. So, if we can't put 2 lights on this side of the 2, can we put 2 lights on the other side? Well, no, we can't, for exactly the reasons we couldn't over here. We isolate the 1. So again, although it doesn't look like it until you actually think about it, there must be exactly 1 light in one of the either here or here, and exactly 1 light either here or here. Now that allows us to put in loads more dots. We can put in some dots like this. We can put in dots like this, and we can also put in some dots based off the fact that this 1 gets isolated. Look, so you can see that we can how was this going to work? Sorry, let me just think about this for a second. We can put dots in those 2 positions because we know there's either a light here or light here. And I don't think we can do anything more in the vertical plane, and the same thing on that side. And all of a sudden, this 2 is now forced. We can start actually putting in some lights with certainty now. So that's got to be in, this has got to be in, this has got to be in, this, and this, by the looks of things. All of those have got to be in. Start marking these off because we've finished them. This 1 is now forced, look. The only way of getting to this cell is if this is lit up, so we must light that up. The only way of getting to this cell is if this is lit up. And can we spot the final step now? How do we get to this square? Look, how do we light that square up? That's going to have to be from there. That isolates the last light for the 2. This square now can only be lit up with this square, and there we go. So that's how to do Palmer's very, very interesting Akari. And as I say, a bit different today. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, because we can always dig out more Akari puzzles, I'm sure. If you do enjoy Akari puzzles, then nicoli.com is the place to get them, although you can now only get them in books and booklets. You have to order them from their website, which is brilliant, and I do it all the time. But yeah, you then have to solve them with the old-fashioned pencil. Come back tomorrow for another video.